Hello?
You're listening to TMI for the week of December 31st, 2018.
People are thinking 2018 was the worst year ever. I mean, if it's because of the Trump, but then maybe you should have voted, or, don't let your uncle and mom vote for Trump. There you go.
And why would it matter to Canadians what goes on down there?
Because Canadians are stupid people. They think that Trump is the president of Canada as well.
Well, considering the Auto Pac and NATO and the main contributor to the UN and the past 100 years of the Americans as the world's police and leader of the free world, I mean, it's hard to ignore. I mean, GM burped in Oshawa and it was going to be the end of Ontario as we knew it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the end of Ontario as we know it, but
Why, have you heard much about GM closing its plant since it was announced?
yeah, like 24 eons ago in the news cycle world?
Right.
Yeah. But people are like, oh, us closing, oh, what are we going to do? And then the news changed, so I don't know what's happening now. I don't know when it's closing. I don't know when it's meant to close. I don't know what all those hillbillies are going to do. I mean, they have a lot of time now. They can go out.
Yeah, I wonder if the UI will spike in Durham region.
Oh, for sure. Well, I don't think it's only Durham region. Well, I guess you're right, because Bowmanville isn't Durham region. The Oshawa people are very different than people at this side of Durham.
Well, I can say that plant closing, probably because production was higher, but it seems like in the 60s, 70s, the idea of a big car maker closing a plant down in Ontario was a threat to our nation. Maybe automakers and their suppliers aren't as important to the Canadian economy as they were 30, 40 years ago. The Auto Pac. It was the most important deal we had.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but I mean, in my lifetime, like there used to be a big plant at, it was like Eglinton and Victoria Park, I remember as a kid driving by there, and the plant went on for blocks right on Eglinton. I can't remember. I think that was a GM plant. So, I mean, these plants have closed down, but they've scaled back and they've hired robots and fired people, and they've moved a lot of production out of the country. Maybe it's not as important now. We have Toyota plants and Hyundai plants and...
Well, the Toyota and Honda plants are what people buy. Huh. If you go around the road, you'll only see stupid people driving American cars.
So you don't notice people north of you, more in northern Durham region, that drive GM vehicles out of loyalty to the plant?
Truck drivers for sure. I think the only thing that American car makers have left is the trucks, because when I was in farmland, you saw everybody had a Dodge this and Ford this and whatever, these huge behemoths. I mean, but they put logs and shit in it, But their personal car was almost everybody's was a Hyundai or a Kia. And that's what's happening out in the boonies and farmland. You can just trickle it down to, suburban areas. And I'm talking about farmland. There's not city farmland. I'm talking about like near Bayfield and Goderich, that kind of farmland where it's all farmland.
Okay.
Where everybody's a farmer.
So you kind of suggest nothing really that bad happened in 2018. So maybe it's just this, it's a sense...
Well, I guess you want to talk about nothing really bad happened to me or you.
No.
What bad happened was there is a new level of political ridiculousness was set.
We're not in World War III. The sky, it's getting more polluted, but it didn't fall. And so maybe it's just a feeling of exhaustion after 2018 just got crazier than 2017. And maybe we're just whiny about not being comfortable with the new political world order.
Well,
No, the economy was okay. There's, statistical records being broken on job creation and employment levels and the stock market up until a few weeks ago. Maybe it hasn't been as bad as it feels. I think that's a really great observation. But for
yeah.
people who
Well,
believe in liberal
not only that, I'm
democracy,
just saying at a personal level that it's not, it's nothing.
for people who are fanatics for liberal democracy, it's been the end of the world. But again, that's just a feeling. That's not a thing. Maybe it's, what is the term I'm looking for? It's a first world problem to be worried about the end of democracy. Here's another one. Orange Trump suits.
Yeah, I guess so. But we haven't gone there yet, so. So Trump is the new orange? You don't like that?
Wow. Okay. No, that's good. Day number XXX since the ... So at the end of each show, somebody would say it's day number whatever it is since the whatever. So did you hear before Christmas he got together for one of his photo ops and had some kids on Christmas Eve visit the White House? Did you hear about that?
No.
So I think he asked one of the kids, do you believe in Santa still? And I think he interrupts the kid's answer and says, because at 7, it's marginal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's got a kid on his lap, a 7-year-old, and he's helping him doubt whether Santa's real. He can't even get his shit together with a 7-year-old kid.
Well, dude, he can't get his shit together with a 7-year-old kid because he's a 7-year-old kid where he's always wants to be the center of attention.
7 was a good year for me.
It was a good year for you?
Oh yeah, I was still able to, how you'd be with your friend and one would start laughing and the other one would start laughing and it could escalate to hyperventilation. Do you remember that? When you could laugh yourself crazier and crazier and crazier and then you start laughing at your friend who's laughing and the next thing you know, you could die. You could just laugh yourself to death. 7 was a good year, and probably 7 was probably a friend of my mother's. Probably said something that led to a question, and then I guess your parent decides if by a certain age they ask a certain question, they kill Santa. But I just thought that was pretty horrific, him being on the lap.
I think to be honest, I don't think parents or people tell kids. And nobody's ever told me that, oh, we had to tell them the hard news, there's no Santa, because they find out on their own. As soon as they hit a certain age, it spreads like a wildfire, I think, in schools. And I think that's what happens. So for a 7-year-old, yeah, it's still early, I think.
Well, as I said, in my experience, it was a family friend. Wouldn't you be like in gym class in the change room and somebody says something that lets on that they still believe in Santa and then a bunch of other kids laugh? You must still believe in Santa? What a baby.
Well, yeah. Yeah, what's wrong with you? Are you a child?
Mean older kids. So that's the thing about bullying from people of my generation, maybe yours. It is also a form of preening. If your monkey's hanging in the tree, they're all picking the bits off each other's fur and stuff. I think that's a lot of what happens with teenagers is they bug each other until one improves their hairstyle or until...
Yeah, it's a herd mentality. You groom and you force people to become part of the herd. That's why it's been happening for millions of years, Their bullying is only one way. They all bully each other, and then they all tell each other that's rude, and they don't give a shit, and they go on and do it again. but they don't do the proper bullying, you know. Because the proper bully was you come out, I make fun of your haircut, you feel sad about it, you learn your lesson, don't let your mom put a bowl on your head ever again. You go get your cut from a barber, and you do it next time. And you don't cry about it too much. You cried the first day, the second day, fine, because the hair hasn't grown in yet. But eventually you learn your lesson. But nowadays, you get a bowl cut from your mom, you come, you make fun of other people's, they attack you cry about it, you tell your mom, your teacher, student, and then you go to like this PTSD training,
Right.
and then you
Therapy.
continue getting the bowl haircut from your mom until you mold everybody to be okay with your shitty haircut.
Or maybe you become a blogger and critic of stand-up comedians. I don't know if you caught the CBC News reported a few days ago, medical checks on every migrant child in U.S. custody ordered after second death. So the kids are just dying. A 7-year-old, an 8-year-old, 7-year-old
What happened
girl.
was that Harambe, whatever the lady's name is, who's like half human, half poison, and half Satan's minion in one. So what happened was, from what I understanding, was that some young kid from Honduras or something like that. I don't think it was Mexican. It was something else. Some kid died in a cold cell when he was sitting in the cold cell for 2 days or something. So she came out, the Huckabee bitch, and she came out and said, "Oh no, every precaution was made and it was just an accident." And all the doctors from the government said she's wrong. They looked at the kid post-mortem and all that shit, and they said that it was because he was badly treated, not taken care of. It was left in cold. So they're literally treating human beings like cattle.
The kid didn't eat or drink anything for 2 days before reaching U.S. custody.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a 7-year-old girl, and then now an 8-year-old boy, and it turns out he had, I think the flu, was very sick when he arrived and didn't get any kind of treatment. So for voters, it turns out if you let a James Bond villain be president, here's what happens. Right, when you look at him with his deals with the Moscow Tower and with the baby jails and the EPA, I don't know if you caught this week now, the EPA has relaxed regulations that were set to go into effect under the Obama administration. That would have meant that 17 U.S. coal plants would have been refitted with scrubbers, mostly in an attempt to reduce mercury. So as of January now, these plants don't have to comply and add scrubbers. And so now they're all going to be breathing more mercury and all the other things that come with burning coal. But, yeah, it's James Bond stuff. Like, we don't have enough mercury in our air. Make America great again.
Well, he's making America great. I think we talked about a long time ago, according to the 50s standards, where you protected yourself from nuclear fallout underneath your dining room table.
But what do you think about the analogy? He's a James Bond villain.
Well, I don't like it because that means he's smart. I don't think he's smart.
James Bond defeats all the villains. They're not as smart as they think they are.
No, they're defeated only because that's the movie. But if you look at any movie of James Bond, the
Yeah.
the villains are like so great. They execute everything perfectly,
Right.
and that's the whole point of the movie. That James Bond, who's smarter than them and is such a superhero type person that can foil their plans, but nobody else can. Everybody falls. James Bond villain are really smart, and really above average people.
Okay.
So they're the top 1% type of people who've gone a bit insane, which is basically what they say, that genius and insanity is a thin line, and that's what those villains are. And Trump is not those villains.
Find us on Twitter at @thatarcher, our podcast page, tmi.twxnet.com. Rate the show on iTunes. It changes the way the show is listed.
A hypersonic nuclear missile capable of 20 times the speed of sound now from Russia.
Oh,
Yeah. Because they come in, an ICBM would come in at Mach 5, I thought. And that's one of the reasons why that we can't defend against them, because they come in so fast. But now there's one that's 20 times the speed of sound. But, I mean, after it started to heat up with Trump, they released this movie of how a first strike on Florida would look like, the Russians. Do you remember that? They put out this video showing how their new missile could easily hit Florida. And it had, like, you know, images of a red dot getting bigger and bigger on Florida. You know, right around the time we were supposed to be believing that Trump and Putin were best friends. Now, it's the big announcement, and they made a big deal about it very publicly. There was a bunch of polls done recently, and now Trump's support has dropped to 39%. 56% oppose the performance of Trump, and 39% are still all in. 39. Lawrence O'Donnell retweeted somebody, a David Rothkopf, at DJ Rothkopf, K-O-P-F. He listed the top 15 foreign policy concepts that President Trump has demonstrated he does not understand in 2018. Alliances, trade, the rule of law, economics, strategy, tactics, leadership, values, immigration, human rights, aid, markets, diplomacy, treaties, and national interests. The top 15 foreign policy concepts that President Trump has demonstrated he does not understand in 2018.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. He can't even maneuver an umbrella while going inside the plane. I think he's never used an umbrella in his whole life. I think people use it for him because he looked at it, he tried to press the button to work, and he just left it outside and he walked inside the plane. And that was all over the media. And then his toilet paper climb up the stairs of the Air Force One. I mean, have you seen his suits? Come on.
Here's something I heard a political pundit say this week on cable news. So he said, his hardcore caucus still supports Trump. His hardcore caucus.
Because
you of all people, I thought would
every 3-4 months, and they show that
hardcore is a porn reference, and caucus sounds like cock.
Yeah. Cock is always a cock. Yeah.
On the immigration issue, now he's saying to Democrats, "Here I am. I'm sitting right here. I'm ready to do a deal at any time." Trying to blame Democrats for not breaking the deadlock on his ridiculous wall and ending the government shutdown. But it turns out that Pelosi said the other day that there's been no reach out to the Democrats since December 11th. So he's all tweeting and in the public media going, "I'm right here." I mean, we're all supposed to be afraid he's going to cancel his Mar-a-Lago vacation and sit alone in the White House. He said, "I think I'm all alone here in the White House, ready to do a deal." But not actually. Okay. So then the wall turned from a wall of China, an impervious thing. It became a slat wall. It's gone from being a wall into a beaded curtain.
Yeah, it's a fence, yeah. Yeah,
those curtains that are made of beads.
Walking from one room to another.
Okay. While Trump is claiming it's a big crisis now, we've got to do something now, the crossover at the southern border is its lowest level since the 1970s. One of the incredible things that happened in 2018 was the hurricane that hit Puerto Rico. Since then, we've learned that thousands died and that they went months and months and months without electricity, and things may never really get back to what they were before. Here's Trump soon after the hurricane hit Puerto Rico.
A real catastrophe like Katrina, and you look at the tremendous hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that died. And you look at what happened here with really a storm that was just totally overpowering. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. Now, what is your death count as of this moment? 17?
16 certified.
16 people certified. 16 people versus in the thousands. Everybody around this table and everybody watching can really be very proud of what's taken place in Puerto Rico.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And since then, multiple studies have been done. Thousands died.
Well, who told him that it was 16? Because he turned and asked somebody, and somebody said 16.
Yeah, I guess you're right. We're kind of playing with the truth. I mean, those are, because he said certified, so you could see how it might take them a while to certify all the deaths. But I think even by then it was pretty clear that the island was devastated. Trump visits Iraq this week.
Oh, what is that? The one where when he visited troops and he gave out serious information about their mission?
That's right. He did selfies. They're supposed to be a secret operation, and he's doing selfies with them. And in the past, when that's happened, if it was publicized, they would gray out the faces so they couldn't be identified. SEAL team. So he, in his speech, both gave away their mission and what they were, where they were, and then not just the fact that he posed in these selfies, but then the White House went and retweeted all the selfies without blanking out their faces. There's a tradition of politicians tailoring their speeches so that they avoid partisan politics. Not only because if you compare a Trump rally where people are all there willingly and they can leave at any time, when you assemble a bunch of troops and you do a speech in front of them, they are in a lot of ways a captive audience. Anyway, he used his captive audience to be political. Here's some clips.
You know, when you think about it, you're fighting for borders in other countries. And they don't want to fight the Democrats for the border of our country. We're here to help others. And for all of you that have those red caps, and I saw them before, I signed a lot of them, it says, "Make America Great Again." And you know what? That's exactly what we're doing.
In every possible way, he breaks every convention and tradition. What are they going to do? Boo him? He started out by saying the Democrats don't want to protect our own border. His biggest battle right now is a government shutdown as a result of the Democrats not giving him his border wall. Another problem that he's created abroad in his foreign policy is putting into question the value of the UN and NATO. And one of his talking points on that is that he feels like they're just giving away their military protection, and that other countries have to pay their own way in terms of paying for American protection. Here he is at that same rally.
They also have to pay a price. So we're not the suckers of the world. We're no longer the suckers, folks. And people aren't looking at us as suckers. We're respected again as a nation.
So until Trump came along, all their brethren who have been dying in military conflicts were suckers. No?
Well, I don't think it was ever a sucker thing.
This is what he's saying to troops who are captive.
No, I know, but I mean that's just propaganda. It's a whole base thing. I have tried. I have joined all kinds of right wing ridiculous forums to see what the people say. Their mentality is so ridiculous, but it all makes sense when you see what they say and what they believe in and what Trump says. It makes perfect sense in what Trump is saying. But if you don't know how those people think and what they believe in, Trump sounds ridiculous. But those people are so ridiculous. That's why he's so ridiculous.
He brought up the wall. The wall is the big political battle that he's trying to start at the beginning of Nancy Pelosi's speakership as the Democrats lead the House now. And as always, these characters, they'll drag in something to deflect us onto some new battle and have us forget about everything else. But no matter what crazy thing Trump says, there's always Sarah Huckabee Sanders backing him up. And by doing so, I think the idea is that if you just have it be printed out on the White House printer, it becomes normalized somehow. So here she is again.
Look, nobody wants anybody to struggle. Nobody wants the government to be closed. That's why we're asking Democrats to sit down and negotiate something they actually support. The real question here is Nancy Pelosi is only looking to protect her speakership and not protect our borders, and that's why she's unwilling to negotiate with us and unwilling to make any type of a deal and unwilling to help do what is necessary. We have to stop illegal drugs coming in. We have to stop human traffickers and child smuggling and the gangs that come across our border. We pick up 10 known or suspected terrorists a day coming across our border, and we have to be able to stop this, and we need Democrats to sit down with us at the table and get the job done.
So that's been fact-checked. That's sort of why I mentioned, like, Canadians. Their biggest immigration problem is Canadians overstaying their visas. When they say they intercept 10 terrorists a day, that's just people who are on a watch list, and that's all for flying. It's not at the southern border. But yet she's talking about the southern border. She's characterized all the people who cross the border as child smugglers, everything but pornographers so far. David Nicholas Cicilline is an American politician, has been a U.S. representative for Rhode Island's 1st Congressional District. Here he is speaking recently in the House.
He wants a fight about this because he wants to distract from the other very bad things that have happened in the last 2 weeks. He lost his defense secretary in a very serious rebuke of his foreign policy. The Trump Foundation was closed because of persistent illegalities. He's lost the ISIS coordinator, Mr. McGurk. The stock market has been very volatile. The walls are closing in with the Mueller investigation. So I think the president has decided, you know what, a shutdown will distract from all of that.
A distraction?
Well, I guess so. I mean...
And traffic over the southern border is at its lowest point since the 1970s. And yet here is a reminder of his primary election promise.
I will build a great, great wall on our southern border, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall. Yeah. Mark my words.
Yeah.
Comedy goldmine. And as soon as he's not president, you will see people are going to be talking about Trump for decades. People are going to just use him as an adjective.
Yeah. Wasn't there a card game where you yell out Trump? Do you remember from the 70s? Does this ring any bells for you?
Yeah, of course. It's not from the 70s. It's from my time.
The corrupt American politician is often found in the rocky arenases of New Mexico and southern border states.
You should play those up until late 90s, 2000s, probably.
They went away for a long time. They only brought it up again. I'm going to say the late 90s, even maybe in the 2000s. They disappeared for a long time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hinterland Who's Who. If you Google it, there's one particular YouTube, and somebody's made a comedy out of it. And it's a spider. And they play the tune.
Yeah, I think I remember that one,
yeah.
Yes.
It's quite entertaining. After the Americans put out that warrant for the chief financial officer of Huawei.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we, in compliance with treaty, held her. Then the Chinese retaliated by holding a Canadian citizen. And then Trump came out and said, well, if we arrange a release in exchange for a new tariff deal. So not only did he politicize a rule of law process, but made it an economic bargaining chip, Trudeau came out and said,
Canada is and will always remain a country of the rule of law.
That was a great moment, I think, in 2018 for Canada. What do you think of Trudeau?
I like Trudeau. I mean, the thing is, people don't like Trudeau is because Trudeau is the High Park, Rosedale type guy who goes for a run, has funky wife and funky kids, and they shop at Holt Renfrew. They like to drink beer in their garage door half open. They hate people like that. So that's what Trudeau is. He's the prime minister for the minority of Canadians who run Canada.
Huh.
Same people who hate Trudeau, they also love Trump in Canada.
They're going to vote for a Ford.
Yeah, oh, there you go. Yeah, there you go. They got a Ford in.
So I wanted to say, so one of Trudeau's mistakes was you think he didn't trash his image down a little bit to appeal to working types.
No, but he doesn't need to.
Well, Trudeau's had some actual real jobs as a real guy. One of them we pointed out, he's a tough guy. He was a bouncer. Like we don't think of, I was thinking of the Trailer Park Boys, he's like the Julian of Canadian politics, and yet as you describe him, we think he's silver spoon. I'm sure he obviously.
Oh, there's silver spoon there because I mean, if you live in a house and you've got a nanny or your parents hang around with other people who are of influence, then that's silver spooning it right there.
I remember visiting Ottawa on a school visit. The whole class went to Ottawa, so during school hours, I think we were in a park and we saw the Trudeau boys walking back to school for lunch or something. And I think it was pretty clear they were in uniforms, so it was a rich kid school. Around Sussex and Rockcliffe Parkway. The excitement or interest in Trump was finding out the bits and the facts. What happens as a result of that isn't maybe any of our business.
Well, I think the whole Trump thing is almost like a TV series where shit happens and there's going to be more seasons.
Right.
So 2018 wasn't the last season. It continues on.
So at one point you were suggesting, where's the indictments, where's the jail? Yeah. Nothing's going to happen. If it hasn't happened by now, it's not going to happen.
Well, one of the things that people said that was really interesting was that these are pundits are saying that his son is going to go pay the price. And you had said a while ago that he's going to put his family under the bus to save his ass. So who knows? That's what we'll see. He goes, I didn't know. I didn't tell Don Jr. to do this. That's it. He's got to pay the price. Lock him up. Lock him up. Maybe that's what we'll see. Maybe that's what 2019 bring by January, February.
He'll
March.
Blame Don Jr. and Eric. Any thoughts on the holidays or Christmas, or just suck it up, or...
Yeah, no, holidays are fantastic. It's a good time to be a person. And if you're over 25, you need to get over your bullshit hang-ups and participate in this global one day a year that you need to be family-oriented and do things that are family-ish and don't do any work. Unless you're a TTC driver or somebody else, like a nurse or a doctor. Then you go work. Or if you're... even in hospitals and other places, there's a Christmassy thing going on. And a lot of people like New Year's. To me, New Year's is just whatever. It's like a Friday night. Christmas is the big thing,
I watched John Travolta in Gotti. And it's because it comes after the end of, rewatching The Sopranos. And then all the Godfathers, and then Casino, and then Goodfellas. So I threw in the Gotti. It was interesting to watch because it had some of the flavor of these dramas, but it was also tied to history, and it even showed like Channel 7 out of Buffalo reporting details. I think it was the killing of Paul Castellano. But it's sort of a reminder, how close we are to New York, and that Buffalo is part of New York State, and that they were prevalent everywhere in New York. I thought that was reasonably good. I thought Travolta sort of pulled it off because he played Gotti at different points in his life. Have you been into these mafia movies? The Costa Nostra movies?
Oh, there's not been a good one recently, so not recently, no.
Well, check out Gotti. I mean, it was just interesting because it's based on the facts. It's based on news reports. Like they cut two photos.
What? Now that I mentioned it, there's a Canadian show about the Montreal Mafia guy. Mm-hmm. There's a TV show about him. I told you about it a while ago.
What's the name of that?
Bad Blood is the Canadian one.
Okay.
Bad Blood. It's on Netflix now, so you can watch it. Mm-hmm. Other mafia movies. I mean, there's Sopranos, Godfather, Goodfellas, Casino, Godfather, Mean Streets, The Sting, Godfather Part 2, The Long Good Friday. Bob Hoskins in it, who's an Englishman. Scarface, there you go. Once Upon a Time in America, The Untouchables, Goodfellas, Miller's Crossing, Reservoir Dogs, Carlito's Way, Bronx Tale, Pulp Fiction, Usual Suspects, Casino, Gotti, the original one, Pusher, never heard of Pusher, Donnie Brasco, Jackie Brown, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, that's English, Snatch, English, Departed, that's American, American Gangster, Eastern Promises, Gomorrah.
Great.
It only goes that far.
Okay. It's handy. Why wouldn't we seek more fantasy-based entertainment if the crazier the world
We do.
gets?
We have Infinity Wars, Lord of the Rings. They're all fantasy-based. Game of Thrones. Everything people are watching and talking about that they enjoy, they're all fantasy-based. All of them.
Well, how about all the superhero things? I was wondering if that's a reflection of how we feel. If we feel more and more just a number and less our voice is heard in the democratic process, wouldn't we want to all fantasize we were superheroes with special powers that made us special than everybody else?
I guess so. I don't want to be any superhero. I just watch it to see how entertaining it is because that's what a dude growing up did. Watch superhero shit. We watched Spider-Man, now there's a movie. We watched Transformers, now there's a Transformers movie. Everything we watched growing up is like a movie now. Or a show that's live action. I never thought when I was young that they could ever make a show with Spider-Man. I couldn't comprehend. But now the graphics are so good that it's ridiculous, And now we scrunch our nose up on the... because the storyline's kind of shitty. But there's a lot of non-superhero shows. Game of Thrones is one of them.
So what's about to be released on Netflix that you'll be watching?
Well, this week they released quietly one of the shows I like to watch called Travelers, which Netflix picked up. And it became part of Netflix, and it was also being played on TV. But the third season showed up on Netflix one day, so I finished that last night. I'm going to be watching an animated show called Three Below, Tales of Arcadia. It's a spin-off of another show. It's animated. Lucifer also got picked up by Netflix, so their last season's going to be on it. Now I'm also seeing on my feed showing up Bad Education. Cuckoo, which is an English show, who has an American actor and the English comedian Greg Davis. I'm going to watch that. Happy showed up on Netflix. You should watch that. That's good. There's also a show on Amazon. It has to do with Gymkhana. There's a stunt driver that makes all these funky videos and he uses customized cars. Sometimes he uses a Mustang, sometimes he uses a Subaru, and he drives all across a busy city. And it's all stunt driving. They empty out the city for him to do it, and it's making off basically. So that would be an interesting thing to watch.
Did you ever get into Jay Leno's garage?
No.
What is the deal with these Grand Tour, the split between the British Grand Tour and the American, and how's that panned out?
Oh, the franchise of Top Gear? Yeah, well, it's pretty big. The American one sucks. I don't know about the Polish and the Russian and the Chinese. And English one is having problems with hosting. So they had the American guy. He was pretty decent, actually. So I don't know if they're picking him up again or not.
That's Matt LeBlanc, right?
Into it. Matt LeBlanc, yeah.
And the one... So I've got all my names all screwed up. So it's not Top Gear... What's the American one with the British guy, the disgraced British host?
Oh, no. It's there is an American Top Gear too, but we're talking about the Amazon one, the Grand
Tour. So when are those seasons? Like when does all that stuff light up?
Let's see. Grand Tour, what are we? Season 4 would it be, I guess? I don't know. January 18th. 2019 is season 3 starting.
Okay. And Top Gear.
Top Gear UK. Top Gear UK. Oh, Matt LeBlanc is leaving.
Okay. And when does the season start?
2019, we don't know when. It'll probably be in the summertime sometime. Top Gear. It usually starts in March 3rd. Okay, so now let's see Jay Leno. There's no announcement. So maybe it ended. It started April 19, 2018. Season 5 does not show up. What channel is that on?
Well, it started off on CNBC, but now it's on Amazon. It's been picked up on Amazon anyway. But so I don't really know.
So what do they talk about? They just talk about shitty American cars?
Yeah, it's kind of silly, but you see him driving a lot of different exotic cars, and he has like, I don't know, thousands of cars in his collection. I think the Trailer Park Boys are a lot of fun. Anyway, the Trailer Park Boys on Netflix. You can see all of their episodes and movies, and it's big in the U.S. So, but
well, it's sad because they probably think that's how Canada is.
That's okay. That's okay. You know what? Because then they don't have to worry about us. We're not like Japan next door, just 1 second away from invading, beating us like the Germans in technology, and you know. We're less. That's not a bad thing for them to think we're just silly, crazy people up living in trees and trailer parks. That's okay. That's okay. Don't come here. That's why I want the beaded wall. You know, come and visit once in a while. Give us some tourism money, but that's okay if they think it's a nice place to visit. But I wouldn't want to live there. We'll keep our.
Well, the problem is, if any American comes to Canada, they're probably not allowed back in America, because they have rules. If you smoke or touch pot here. They fuck you up in states on the way back.
What are they going to do? Rescind their citizenship?
Yeah, basically.
No. But and a lot of this is hysteria about this whole weed and the border and all that stuff. But who knows? We'll see how it pans out.
So what do you say? You want to smoke a joint and watch a movie?
Reckon you're eating cat treats.
Oh, these?
Yes, cat treats.
Yeah, these are fucking good. Expensive?
Just gonna keep eating them, are you?
I'm Dave Archer in Toronto.
And I'm Alex Sharp in Markham, Ontario.